Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Freeman Focus podcast. I'm your host, Mariano, and this is where we slow things down, have real conversations, and focus on building healthier mindsets, stronger communities, and better values. Season 1 is proudly sponsored by What the Snark, your local go-to custom branding, business apparel, decals, and personal gifts located in Wild Rose, Wisconsin. Today, I'm joined by Victor Magnus, a proud U.S. veteran, Freemason, and owner of Rural Mutual Insurance of Wautoma. Victor's been
Yep.
serving his community for years, not only by helping protect families and businesses, but by mentoring the next generation of men and leaders. Victor, would you please tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do there in Wautoma?
Yeah, your summary is a pretty good intro. I did 21 years with the Wisconsin Army National Guard, retired back in July of 2021. A few deployments there. Got into insurance just over 13 years ago when I was coming off active duty. I was a military instructor for a number of years, and I was like, I should maybe grow up. And so I got a job. The market wasn't easy at the time. A friend from college reached out and said, "Hey, you want to sell insurance?" I said, "I don't know anything about sales. I don't know anything about insurance. Do you go to school for it? What do you got to do?" So Terry connected me with Josh Carter, a State Farm up in Neenah, as he was getting ready to start from a retiring agent, got on board, and to the point where it just obviously I've made it a career. It'll be, like 13 years of doing that. I'll have, I think December 15th of this year will be, I want to say 8 years. 8 years with Rural Mutual Insurance already here in Wautoma. And then I've had 2021 is kind of when I switched gears for Rural Mutual, a program that you start out as a financed agent. So show that you can do this thing by running a business, selling insurance, etc. So 2021, we flipped the switch, turned into an LLC. I hired my first employee, Sharon, who's been with me since then. Got to the point a couple of years ago, coming up about 3 years ago now, where I was like, hey, it's about time I need to look at growing. I need probably a sales rep. And through the chamber, I'm going to be having a conversation with the director at that time. And lo and behold, Molly Delkey, who you had on a handful of episodes ago, reached out. She needed a change of pace, wanted to focus more on family, and it was something that I could offer. So she came on board nearly 3 years ago. And couple months ago, earlier this year, I hired my first remote worker. She went to college, placed her with Deanna. And so Deanna's been with us since August, I think, now doing remote work. So we've got 2 part-time staff, 1 time full-time sales to myself. So that's kind of us here. Then you mentioned the Freemasons. I've been in the Freemasons since 2019. I was looking for an organization that was community orientated, but yet focused on individual self-development. Knowing that retirement was looming from the military, I said, well, I got to find something. I've always had an interest in the Freemasons. I was in a fraternity in college. That fraternity in college, Sigma Chi, one of the premier leadership fraternities in the nation. So much so that our pledge program is actually recognized, and you can get leadership credits at your college institution. It's been accredited. So it's kind of a neat thing.
That's epic.
Yeah, right. So it's like that brotherhood, that bonds, the idea of giving back to your community. I was like, so I kind of reached out. I got involved. It's just another avenue of joy for self-development for myself that says, hey, how do I become a better version of myself? And through our teachings and all of our time when we get together, it kind of provides that. And it doesn't replace church, that it tells you and encourages you to go to church, follow your creator. So that's one of those things then, church is kind of that backside of it. We get there as often as we can with all the kids' sports and kids' activities. Sunday, unfortunately, really isn't that day of rest in our society because there's always something. There's always something going on. Be it football, be it, volleyball, be it wrestling tournaments, like there's always something. So right now we're real heavy back into church. My daughter's getting ready to go through catechism and that kind of stuff. So Wednesday night Bible studies and going, making sure we're prioritizing church on Sundays. So, which has been refreshing to get to see to get to church, hear God's word, and kind of go from there. So it's a lot going on all, in my life. So
Yeah, communion is important, and having faith and having direction to where to put that and the energy to put behind that's important. Definitely agree with you on that. As far as a little bit, you said that you had served in the military for quite a few years. As far as talking about our freedoms go, the ability to speak, work and live freely. How do you view that privilege, and what kind of responsibility do you think comes with that?
having an opportunity to have really traveled a portion of the world, get to the Middle East, when I was in my early 20s, to see a society and culture that doesn't necessarily outwardly value women's inputs and their rights. For what we have here on that side of the house, it's unbelievable. Like, it really is. Even though America has its issues, what house doesn't have their own problems? Seeing that firsthand, going, wow, our women, our children have just so much more opportunities than these particular nations and such. And so I think there's a lot of times where that gets taken for granted because people that don't travel don't understand that. 2019, 2020, was throughout kind of Europe. I was in Ukraine for about 10 months, deployed. And there, I mean, they're a Western civilized nation, and they have, faith is integrated into their culture. Freedom. I always kind of viewed Ukraine as like baby America, because they're like, let's go, let's, freedoms, defend ourselves, that kind of stuff like that. They honor women in their society. And it's just, when you don't get an opportunity to see the world, you don't understand what it is that we have. And I love to travel just for vacation outside of the United States, some countries, I think, at this point, roughly. And
That's awesome.
what we have here is, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Like, there is upward opportunity for every individual in America. And we see the things that are happening, unfortunately, in the current state of the political world and environment here in the country. But you're able to say these things freely. You're able to gather. You're able to protest peacefully. And that doesn't happen in many places throughout the world. I mean, we're not the only ones with freedom, but sometimes I think, unfortunately, people take for granted what we have because they don't understand fully with what we actually have.
We are definitely very blessed here in America. My dad's from Mexico, so I am the son of an immigrant. He's here legally, so that's great. But so I'm not an anchor baby technically, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm very grateful because I grew up in Chicago area, and seeing the news and what how chaotic things are right now with things. It's like, I'm very blessed that I was raised in the time that I was raised in, and that I came from a poor family, because that taught me to learn and really respect and honor my values and like the things that I do have in life, and just be appreciative of what I have. And like you said, opportunities. There's ample opportunities around us. Anybody can change any given day. Just the sky's the limit. Just put your heart and your mind in the right place, and things are going to happen. So
It's putting your nose down and grinding. Its opportunities are endless. It's like the family I grew up in, we were not wealthy by any means. So I count my blessings to be in a position that I am in financially, to be able to support my family, my children, small steps, incremental, to set them up, hopefully, for a greater future themselves. And you got to put work in for it. You have to have values. You have to know that you're going to fail. It takes time to develop. And you also know that you got to take risks. Risk taking is important to be able to go forth and do great things. And you've taken a risk to do the Freeman Focus. You've taken a risk to start your business in the shed industry. So you understand that.
100%.
Failure is a phenomenal teacher.
It's one of the greatest ways to learn.
100%.
Unfortunately, I've made a lot of mistakes, so I learn the hard way. Usually, if I don't figure it out 3 times the wrong way, I might never figure it out. So,
right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly. Like a lesson from God: once, twice, thrice. Like, you'll know, you will be tested. But if your faith is intact, and you're always moving forward towards that light, then you're going to learn. Every lesson is a blessing. You just got to learn what it is that you were meant to understand from that.
And it's, that's one thing I think the military mindset had changed through my 21 years, that idea of in hard times, be it that you're having resilience, right? Like resilience was a huge buzzword years back, and it still is really obviously critical that we have it. But we always joke in the military, like, oh, the good stuff. That was always one of the things, like there's good in everything, and everybody goofed and laughed about it. But it's like, when you step back and you think about it, there is good in everything, that silver lining, and you have to find it, because if you focus on the negative, then the negative energy is going to be there. And with that, you're going to put yourself around people who are negative. Having to go, okay, yep, there's issues, there's a mistake, I'm struggling, but why? What's the outcome? What is God testing me for? Or what positive is going to come out of this that I can build from as I move forward? So you just have to remember to hunt the good stuff and look for that silver lining, because once you do, your blessings are there and you have a way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of touches base on my next question that I wanted to get into. I happened to notice that the Chamber of Commerce had awarded you, was it Business Citizen of the Year? And then the Freemason Wautoma Lodge got voted or awarded the Nonprofit of the Year. So maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that, because that definitely shapes a person in many ways. So
yeah, so being nominated, I had no idea I was nominated for Business Person of the Year. I had no clue. So being at the annual chamber banquet to find that out was, I was stunned. And my acceptance speech was under a minute, and I'm a guy who can talk. So I didn't know what to say, and it's just, to me, it's important to give back, right? The community has given me a blessing by allowing my business to grow. It allows me to, I've got 3 staff that I employ. It helps them pay bills, helps put food on their table, helps them, care for their children. And because of that, it's important that we figure out a way to share, that wealth that we have, be it monetarily, be it that it's our time. I always ask my staff, I'd like to see you do 2 or 3 hours a month of some type of community service. And when you're doing it, you're on the clock, be it on the weekend, whatever. Just give back to our community, because
that's awesome.
We're family at the end. We're family, right? Like the whole community is a family. And we need to be there for each other. We've done so many different things, from the drive-through food delivery, donations to, what do you want to say? The food pantry, and time and donations and stuff with Treehouse Central and that mission. And list goes on and on and on. And it just, to me, it's critical to say, hey, how can I impact maybe somebody else that I don't have a direct way to touch them, through my business. So that's why, to me, it's important to be able to give back from the staff side. It was recognized. We don't do it for recognition, obviously. We do it because we believe in it. My vision statement of my agency is to be an integrated part of our community. Well, it's become the lifeblood. It's what we do. Our vision statement is a living, breathing thing, and we execute it. So we do it because, again, it's right. So yeah, to receive Business Person of the Year I'm still pretty stunned at it. Yeah.
Trying to cram all the words and all the emotions into just 1 minute of communication is like, how do you do that?
Well, and it's like, like my wife had said, the month of October was a wild ride for me. Beginning of the month, I had gone out on the Freedom to Liberty, Missions of Honor, which was like, it's similar to an honor flight for global war on terror veterans. So I went on that beginning of October. So trying to process going to New York City, to Ground Zero, to hear the stories of the people who were rescued, responders. Like, I cried. I spent
heroes,
so many hours
straight
crying.
Heroes.
Just right. And the message was, your service matters. That's what they kept telling us, because they couldn't have done what they did to recover and get America secured without us being gone from our homes. And that's a lot, right? So it's like trying to process that. I get back. My stepfather, who's been in my life for over 30 years, he ends up diagnosed with cancer. That's rapid.
Wow.
Hospice care happens the week of the banquet. He passed away Monday afternoon.
My condolences.
So he's in a far better place. Like he said, he's like, I'm ready to go dance with Mom, because my mom passed about 4 years ago. So he's where he needs to be. And so processing that, what's the next steps look like in the after that? after the death of a loved one, and then receiving that acknowledgement and that award. And it was like, and now we're into Veterans Day, which obviously is an emotional time. So it's been a month, and but it's been an awesome month of learning who I am emotionally and having support and finding out who truly around me supports me and cares for me. It's been a blessing there. And, so, and then to get nonprofit of the year for the Freemasons. Last year, obviously, we're involved with the Farm Bureau. I know Molly talked a little bit about that when she was on. They were nonprofit of the year last year. And rightfully so. They do fantastic things, and they've got some great plans coming up for this next year. And then to be involved with that, and then this year, then the next one, the one that I've been, intimately involved with, to receive that recognition again was surprising, rewarding, because as a fraternity, we are not technically a community organization. We are driven on development of our members and taking care of our members. But it feels so good when you're able to give to others, right? It's a byproduct of it. So to say, hey, what can we do in our community to give back? And we've done so many different things over the years. Our lodge has been here for 160 plus years in the city of Wautoma. Countless men have Countless men have been Masons. So we've done donations for the AEDs. We've done donations for the fire suppression tools, the FSTs, which is part of the broader spectrum of Wisconsin Freemasonry. The AEDs and FSTs right now is a massive initiative that we're trying to outfit every state patrol car with so that they have a go bag. So they have that ability as a first responder. The fire suppression tools, think of this like small briefcase grenade that they pull the pin, throw it in, and it can put out a fire. It's awesome. So we've been doing that. We've donated some of those locally out of our own charitable givings. In the last year and a half, I want to say we've been very involved with the bleed control kits from Guardian CPR, another wonderful local business owner here. So we're teaming up with Peter Fishbach on that. The car show's been around for 23, 24 years. There's just so many things that we can do in the community and give back by providing things to do, and then any money's raised to give back. So scholarships, we award thousands of dollars every year in scholarships to the seniors in our county.
That's awesome.
We just did we had our second annual pumpkin carving event, which is so rewarding and so much fun. I had the idea 3 years ago. I was like, yeah, let's do this for the lodge. And then we're like 2 months out, and Adam goes, all right, I got about 70 pumpkins in the patch. So we grow them at his place, right? He manages it. He tends up to his garden and the farm. He's like, we should be able to get a lot of people from the community. And I'm like, we're going to do what? Like, I thought we were going to do this as an internal event. He's like, no, man, we got to push this out to everybody. I'm like, all right, well, that changes things. So this year was our second year on it to see the kids. Pumpkins are not inexpensive. People go, they can be $8, $9, $10. You got 3, 4 kids. Some of these families right now are struggling on that. Well, guess what? We grow them, have them for free. Take them, carve them.
That's awesome.
Have some fun. It's just, the creativity to see that with the children it's so neat. It really is. We do stuff for Veterans Day. Obviously, today, as we're recording this, we have our annual spaghetti dinner, fundraisers for Admissions of Honor this year. We've done Honor Flight in the past. We used to do the pancake breakfast, but it seems like maybe that just kind of died with time. So we changed it up to the spaghetti. We've done other different educational evenings. Freemasonry is so dedicated to education. We've had events that's open to the public, and we get a handful of the public that come and check it out. And as we're doing these things, we're also obviously, it's not saying, hey, look at all the good stuff we're doing. We're also trying to encourage people to ask, who are you guys, right? What do you do? How do I become a member? Because I can't ask Mariano to become a member. Mariano has to ask me. It has to be of your own free will and accord. You've got to know that you want to take the time and dedicate as a man to self-development and put in the work. And so I just can't come up and ask a person, hey, you want to join? No, that's just not how it works. So in order to grow our fraternity and to grow our outreach, because our community is filled with great men, with great community members, men and women. And those men, if those men join, there's the organization where their women can join and they can do things together and that kind of stuff too. So to get that recognition was pretty amazing. And to go up on stage twice in the same night for something, I was like, do I really want to go? Do I want to really go up a second time? I kind of felt like it. But yeah, it was that one was, we knew we had been nominated. So we kind of had an idea. that there was the potential. Doesn't mean you're going to win. If we wouldn't have won, we were still nominated. So that tells you something.
Right.
So yeah, that was pretty
It's
cool
being
to
intentional
get
with
that.
your team and in your time, like be
Hmm.
confident in everything that you do, and, make sure that you're putting the right amount of energy and effort behind what it is that you believe in. So being intentional with the members on your team, like you said, you had made some changes in your business, and you wanted to get people that were in line with your values, and, helping the community, and doing more than just, the sales side of it, with the insurance and protecting, what matters. But it's also from the aspect of making sure that that they care about the community in the same ways that you do, right? So, core values are very important.
It's so important. And, we look at it here. Our mantra is that we educate. It comes from being a military instructor for about 7 or 8 years, whatever that ended up being. To see the aha moment, to have somebody realize, on the insurance side, what they have or they don't have, to let them know that, should that day ever come, we're here. We're local. You're not dialing an 800 number. You've met me. You've met Molly. You've met my staff. We're going to come out to the house. It's not pressure. Again, it's educate, let you understand and make an informed decision. If you choose us, great. If you don't, for whatever reason, you've learned something, because we always ask the question, did you learn anything? And it's always, yeah, I had no idea about why it's important to have a liability umbrella, or I didn't realize how versatile life insurance can be for my retirement portfolio or protection of my assets. Like until they sit down and have that conversation with an insurance professional instead of, VW dot whatever it is, you're not going to have the right questions asked of you. What's important to you is very different than what's important to Josh, to Susie, to Bob. And AI can't necessarily pull that through, or these chat bots can't pull that through, or people who are at the 800 number who don't live in your community that understand what we face here. So it's taking that educational approach, like you said, having staff that have the values that I'm looking for, and I've been going through Optimal Outcome, a business coaching program. We started that about a year ago in October. And that's been instrumental in developing my business, internal processes,
Right.
putting on paper all these things that are always up in my head is a hard thing to do. And you understand that as a business owner. You're like, man, I got to write that down. And then you never write it down. And then you're like,
I'm
why
trying to
didn't I
make
write
my
it
own
down?
business PKIs, and I'm just like, man, I'm like really trying to understand what those are in my line of work, because I've never been in this market before. I've never been in sales.
Yeah.
So very much like you had said earlier
Yep.
on, that, someone was like, oh, well, you just need to take some courses. You might got to get some schooling for it. And then, just get
Yeah.
out there and throw yourself to the wolves after that.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's a lot how it is. And, we focus on, I focus on development of my staff here. We've done different sales academies, trainings. I send them to training down at corporate. We do online training. Like, it's really important that they are top tier, right? They need to know what's going on in the industry. They need to understand what's happening locally. They understand the coverage, what coverages can and can't do for a person, because, I've seen some pretty traumatic accidents. I've seen some catastrophic fires and losses. I don't want to hear, I didn't know that wasn't covered. That would be horrible to me. So, we promote annual reviews. We promote the idea of let's just see what's changed, what hasn't changed. Hey, years ago, I can remember there's a guy who was, I don't need to do a review. Nothing's changed. And I'm like, well, on file, we don't have any notes. Like, have you done anything to the house? We got talking here. He built an entire second story that nobody knew about. A lot of times the home, in a lot of cases, is one of your largest assets. And now you have a gap in coverage because it's not insured correctly. Where are you going to come up with $100, $200, $300,000 to pay the difference? You're going to be extremely upset with your insurance agent, your company, because you didn't take the time to, it's like a checkup. At the end of the day, it's all it is. Like, hey, have you done anything? We just want to make sure it's right on top of things. It was an entire second story.
Right. Wow. You imagine how hard they had to work in order to afford to
afford
update
that.
their house like that. They sacrificed a lot of their time, because realistically, that's what a lot of work is, right? Work is an exchange
Correct.
for your time for a value. And then you take what you have earned and you put it into your home. So that's a huge investment. Like you said, probably the number one investment or asset that a person probably has in their lifetime, and they're not covering it properly. Like, I can totally imagine how for you guys, that's just like what are you doing?
Yeah, in this current market, the way inflation's been, that's been a huge driving focus has been, educating folks and saying, hey, here's where you are, here's where you should be. Are you willing to assume this much risk? It's up to you, And then on the flip side, you sit down and you go, okay, what are you doing to protect your paycheck if you're still working? Because that becomes your biggest asset. Do you have short-term disability? Do you have long-term disability? Do you have some type of payoff or mortgage protection plan in place? Like all of these things, because I know, God forbid something happens to me and I don't go home to my wife and my kids tonight, I don't want my wife to struggle financially, right? So my income needs to be replaced. And for how long? That's a conversation for me and my wife to figure out, right? Does she want to remarry? Does she not want to remarry? Whatever it might be. So there's just so many conversations that you should be having with your insurance professional on the personal side of things. But then you come over to the business and commercial, that's a whole nother monster. Rural Mutual is the number one farm insurance carrier in the state. We're the third largest commercial insurance company in the state. So
That's awesome.
We do some wide variety of things here at the office. I could be on the phone getting information for a hotel, and next thing you know, I'm talking to somebody who's going to college and they need a renter's policy. And then the next time the phone rings, we're handling, a contractor. It's such a variety. And we've got our own little niches kind of here in the office that we like to work on. So something comes in, we know we can guide it to who's a little bit more well-versed. But again, it comes down to us being educated in the office, us taking the time to educate and demonstrate to our prospects and to our customers that we care and we want you to understand what it is that you have or you don't have. It's an informed decision that we want these people to make.
That's awesome. What I really love about this podcast is and I had mentioned this earlier on, I'm like, I come up with these keynotes so that way we kind of know the flow of the call, but realistically, it's anointed conversation. We're blessed to have this time to sit down and have this conversation with each other. And like a lot of the things that you're saying are like hitting some of the questions that I had prepared. So I'm like kind of going through my guide here, like, all right, we just touched that. We just touched that. Like, it's so awesome. It's like, I don't have to ask the question for your mind to know that this is what the people need to hear. God just blesses you with saying what you need to say, Victor. And that's pretty epic. The next question that I had was in regards to, outside of business, you spend a lot of time mentoring younger men through the Freemasonry and local programs. What do you try to pass on to the next generation of leaders? Like, how do you define living righteously? And, why do you believe so? Why is that so important in today's world?
Well, it's one of those things that, the beauty of, I'll share it with you. I write quarterly articles for the Wisconsin Masonic Journal. So yeah, I'm a pundit or a writer on top of everything else that I have going on in life. And I just wrote an article on mentorship, and I'll share that with you. I think you'd enjoy it.
That's awesome.
Because mentorship can come at so many different levels. And that's what we're doing. So a man decides he wants to join the fraternity, be it younger or be it older. We're going to mentor that individual. We're going to guide him through the process. We're going to get him to understand this is what the ritual's teaching. This is the symbology of these things. Here's practical applications I've used these things in my life for. And then let them figure out how to apply those things to their own life and just kind of guide them along the way. And then you do small things like assign them responsibilities. So this month or next month, we'll have elections, and I'll end up more than likely being the worshipful master, which is the president for the next year to 2 years at the lodge.
That's awesome.
So, I get to provide guidance to the organization for the next, 12 to 24 months, which is going to be amazing. Creating buy-in is a huge thing. Doesn't matter what organization you're in. You have to have buy-in from your people. That mentorship and development is part of it. I've reached out to who was my mentor in when I joined. Keith, he's going to be the counselor position for the upcoming year. So he's going to work with our new members. So right now we've got a gentleman, Mason Earp, who's a current fellow craft. He has an assigned mentor, Jim Lucas. So him and Jim work together. Some of the memorization and the different work that's required to post between degrees. But then the counselor is going to sit in and say, hey, where are you at on this? What extra guidance do you need? Where can we steer you here? So it'll be more of a team approach. And that's one thing that we always, once you complete the Master Mason degree, you're told like every one of these men are available for you. And they can provide that insight, and that counsel. And it's to see some of these younger members flourish and start to become into themselves and maybe leaders that they didn't think they were before by assigning them small things. Maybe, hey, I want you to prepare this event. Or, hey, during this event, you're going to be the steward. You're going to handle serving beverages and clearing plates. Maybe coming up that, we've got a degree coming up. We're going to challenge you with a different part for memorization. So the 24th, we've got another degree coming up, and I've been charged with learning the masturbation charge. I have never done it in degree, and it's 3 minutes of straight memorization, word for word, right? That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So I've been challenged, right? So being challenged, accepting that challenge to put myself in an uncomfortable situation to learn something is going to develop me. So I get to think, I thank Adam for that, and by putting me in that particular role. So that's putting people in areas where they can be a little bit uncomfortable and showing them that they can achieve these things inside the lodge allows them to then go and leave the lodge and practice it in the real world, right? So think of it as a place of safety and trust. You're not going to be disregarded because you missed a handful of words, or you didn't take your steps correctly, or whatever it might be. Someone's going to whisper good counsel in your ear, and they're going to say, hey, you got this. And you're going to leave that building and you're going to go out in the real world and you're going to apply some of those lessons. So they have the working tools, tools of a mason, be it a trowel, be it a square, a compass, a level, 24-inch gauge. And that's every mason finds a tool that they kind of latch onto that they use the most. And for me, it's the 24-inch gauge. Teaches us to separate our time, 24 inches, 24 hours in a day, 3 equal parts of 8, right? Big number 3, the triune God, right? Those sort of things, to put time for vocation, time for God, time for fellowship, time for family, etc. And you're never always going to balance it out, because some days you might have to put more hours in on your job than you want to. But then you're going to try to get that time back and spend, I need to say no to this, which saying no to somebody can be a very difficult thing. But I need more time with my family. They've been neglected. So applying that particular working tool for the last almost 6 years now, I feel like I've regained time with my family, and my wife's noticed that kind of stuff. So when your family starts to notice the growth from going to these meetings and being around men who are just unbelievable human beings, then I know the time I'm putting in when I am away from the house has been worthwhile.
That's awesome. I think that a lot of people really they might not think about it, but having those counterparts to be able to rely on, like iron sharpening iron, being a leader within your organization and being a leader in your home are very, very much critical in the same ways. You need to lead by example, be honest, always hold integrity, and always allow the truth to shine, through. And that's, sometimes truth hurts, but it needs to be spoken. It needs to be addressed.
Correct.
And a lot of people just kind of tiptoe around, certain things because it's just like, I'm a great person, but maybe I should just walk around this today. It's just like, or you can walk right through it and let's figure it out together, so.
Figure it out together. Yeah. And it's how you receive that criticism, right? It's how you then listen to others. It's how then you speak to others and get that message across, and that's really important in, sales. It's obviously a critical aspect to communication. Military communication was obviously critical in being mission accomplishment. Freemasonry constantly teaches you those sort of things, church, religion, it's the same idea, right? So having so many outlets to constantly remind me from any angle in my life is only beneficial. Sometimes it's exhausting, but I should say no more often. But I'm a recovering saying no person.
It's a fruit of the labor. It is exhausting,
Correct.
but it's definitely very rewarding, especially in the long term. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
As far as when you look at your work, your family, and the people who've helped you, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind you in your community? When people think of Victor Magnus, 25, 40 years from now, what do you want them to think about, or say?
Can't say I've thought that far in the future.
I know. I got to ask the tough questions,
I'm always like, all right, what's 5 years, maybe 10 years out? I'm thinking, it's one of those things that I want people to, what I would want people to think of is that he cared, that he was a family man, that he had love for his community and others, and that, he gave back what he could, because you always have to be reminded that you can only give so much. And if you give too much, you can hurt yourself. You can hurt your family. So having that due restraint and understanding where your limits are, that's where I hope people see that, be it monetary gifts, which are great, but being in the community, being present. I sit and I think of some of our community leaders and members that have passed in the last couple of years, just a lasting legacy of, I think of Terry Martz for Martz Insurance, Jeff's dad. He's Santa. It's not going to be the same this year with his passing, but I think most people are going to remember Terry for the amazing work he did for our community, the way he gave back, how he was involved in his church. If I'm in company like that, it's a blessing in itself.
It's awesome. I think what I was going to say was, a lot of people don't realize that, when you make your mark and you try to make the impact that you can, sometimes you always want to do your best. You always want it to, I don't want to say outdo everyone around you, but you always want to make sure that you have given your true all to it. And sometimes you do have to say no, because you know that you can't devote that much time and energy into a certain project or helping someone. Sometimes it's a simple, like, I really care and, I really hope it works out. I'm going to say a prayer for you, but unfortunately, I'm not the person to be able to assist you with this. You give them some sort of information or some feedback, or maybe a place that they can go to for more help or, further assistance. But sometimes it's important to just, make sure that you let them know that you care, just, give them that not tough love, but it's real love. You know what I'm saying? It's unconditional. It's true.
You're being honest and you're honest with yourself on top of it. And that was, when I go in, I go all in. I'm driven in that manner. So I knew that as my business was preparing to grow, to be able to provide what I needed to move forward in life, the military, it's like I couldn't do it half-ass. And
you should never half-ass it.
Right? Because, these are the men and women of America. These are the children's, the sons and daughters of America that I was responsible for. And you can't half-ass that. Their safety, right? So it's like, I knew that was one of the reasons I needed to retire, because it was time for me to shift my focus to my business and to my family. And it was hard. It was hard to say no. It was hard to some of those phone calls that came and, yeah, we'd love to keep you. And it's like, I can't give myself 100% in 3 different places. It's not going to work. And being honest, you first have to be honest with yourself on that and understanding that. And then you need to communicate it to others effectively. And like you said, provide them resources, especially, I think of on the veteran side of things, it's like, if you're having some mental health concerns or issues, there's so many resources that are out there. I've got a booklet that, hey, you're stuck with this, or you need assistance here, or, I don't know what programs are available. Let me get you in touch with so-and-so. Let me guide you there. And then follow up, right? It comes back to that follow up to show you care and say, hey, Mariano, did you get in touch with so-and-so? You did. Were they able to get you in contact with someone that can assist you to whatever it was, right? Yeah, I was. I appreciate it, right? Because then it demonstrates, that you do actually care about that individual. You're not just pushing them off. And that speaks volume then of your character and who you are. And you shouldn't do those things to get accolades ever, but that's how you influence others to become better versions of themselves, to continue to figure out ways to spread love maybe in a different way that they can do, based on some skill or blessing that the Lord's given them.
And Jesus wants us to love everyone like our brothers and sisters, for our neighbors. And, I think that when people truly start to focus on like, all right, like, I'm going to love you the best way that I can love you. And sometimes that's me telling you what you don't want to hear. There's a lot of that happening right now, because you walk around and you can almost see some blatant mental health issues, and it's just like, you can ignore it and you can just let it be, or you could be like, hey, I really care about you. So, I'm going to say this. And it's like being careful with your words, being intentional with your words, trying to bring them closer to God, not push them further away from God. So I think that those are very important. And a lot of people don't really realize that sometimes love looks a little different to everybody.
Well, I mean, you look at the English language. I mean, we have one word for love. Was it the Greeks? I think it was four different words for love. So we have some limitations on just how love is defined in the English language compared to other languages. And, you should be able to love your neighbor. You should be able to love your best friend. You should be able to love your spouse, love your children. There's so many different levels of varying types of love to have. And I think sometimes it scares people. Far too often does it scare people. And that's where they're withdrawn or that they withhold maybe their true feelings or how to effectively communicate, that feedback that they need to hear. Sometimes it's hard to hear things that you don't want to hear. I can't control how you're going to respond. That's on you, right? But if I'm able to at least communicate to you, hopefully you're able to hear the message, process the message, and then move forward from there.
Excellent. So we're kind of approaching the end of the podcast for today. I got a business meeting after this. If you could give me, well, this works perfect because this goes right into my next question. As far as one thing that you would want your listeners to remember about, this episode, purpose, freedom, responsibility, what would you want to give them? Maybe someone's going through a tough time or, they're making some important business decisions and they're just kind of stressed out about it. I mean, just give us something, give the listeners something here. Off the cuff. You could rearrange that question and provide your own response to whatever, man. I want to make sure that you have a moment, you have another chance to say something awesome, man. Something epic.
We need to give back, and we can give back in so many different ways to our community. There's so many organizations to be involved in. Find something that reflects your values, that mission statement aligns with who you are. I mean, there's so many amazing organizations in every community across our nation, be it from church to volunteer organizations to whatever, right? There's so many out there. We need more volunteers. I can tell one thing is there's not enough people who volunteer their time to give to others. Because I go to all these events and all these different things in our community or different things across the state. It's the same people. It's the same group of people who are always giving. It's not hard to give 30 minutes of your time. It's not hard to spend an hour a month having a conversation with somebody that may need to be lifted up, to go and ring the bell when that season approaches. There's just so many things that an individual can do to get involved in the community. I charge you to do it. I know I charged everyone a couple of years ago to the Veterans Day speech to get involved in veterans organizations. Now I'm speaking tomorrow as the keynote, and I'm pushing the characteristics that, the character traits that our school district pushes into our children and teaches our children that these are things to learn and live by. I'm relating that to how veterans live those very same traits. And that by them doing these things, so not only will they make themselves better, they'll make their community and school better. And they'll honor veterans. They'll honor America by living these character traits out and get involved. Just find a way to get involved, because there's so many people that once they're up and off their rear ends and they're helping one another, you're going to find so much worth and love, and you'll find a way to connect to your God, connect to your community, connect to your neighbors and your loved ones. That there's so much rewarding in it. We know our acts don't get us into heaven. We know that, but damn, does it feel good when you've got somebody else smiling and they realize that, love them. And, there's an intrinsic feeling to that, and there's some worth to it. Just get off your butt and find a way to get involved.
Awesome words there, Victor. And thank you again for your service. I think it goes to say that, there's a lot of people out there that, are unspoken heroes. Not all heroes wear capes. Sometimes it's someone in your local community. It's a leader. It's someone that's mentoring the youth. It's someone that's, trying to make an impact and a difference in any capacity that they can. So again, Victor, I want to thank you for taking the time to join the show today. It was a pleasure having you on as a guest, and I think we definitely need to consider having you on again in the future. There's a lot of great messages in here for this one, for the listeners for this one. And again,
if they could keep up, I was everywhere.
This podcast, it's a blessing, man. This is my 30 minutes to 1 hour of, trying to find some way of giving back, because I'm a father of 6, I'm very financially tight. I live very frugal. It's amazing that I have all this nice equipment that I have here. I'm very grateful. A lot of it was donated or acquired at a fraction of the cost of what it usually does. So that's how I know it's a blessing from God. It's my little reward of keeping a good little fish and keep swimming. And every now and then you get a couple little things that let you know you're on the right path. So I'm very grateful.
Well, I think it's a neat platform for you to, like you said, expose isn't probably the right word, but promote those in our community that are, business leaders and just every general day people. And by doing that, you have an opportunity to learn, right? Podcasts that I 100%. Listen to every Monday, they just had their 400th episode this morning. And they said, he goes, I kind of feel selfish because that's 400 chances that somebody has taught me something, right? Like there's a reward in that for you. There's a reward in for all your viewers to sit and listen to us ramble. And hopefully they can pull something out of it. But what you're working to do, Mariano, I think is great. I'm excited to see where you go with it. And as you move forward with it, I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Victor. And thanks again for joining the show today, folks. Tune in for next week. This episode will drop Thursday. I will release a 1-minute snippet so people get a sneak peek at all the great messages that we have packed in here. This one's another great listen. So definitely, keep following and stay tuned for, the next episode of the Freeman Focus. Thanks.